concealer. Where are you? Should we try the Pretty Vulgar concealer? Yeah, why not? So this I got in my January BoxyCharm box, which by the way, my February one is in shipping. It's in transit. Oh God, I want it. Okay. This color is definitely A, not the right skin tone, and B, too dark for me. But let's see if it works as an eye primer, because why not? I'm gonna start with the Juvia's Place Zulu palette, the darker green blue color here. We're gonna kind of try to see if we can like mix up a shade that matches my sweater, which is from H&M in case anybody was wondering. Oh my God. Like, it doesn't even matter what primer you use with Juvia's Place shadows because they're just gonna slay like a queen. We're gonna use the Tribe palette for some of these shades, these two top corners for sure, and see what we can make happen. So I'm doing a green look today. It's like a complete opposite of what has been revealed on today, which is the Bloodlust palette, which I am not excited about. I want to know if anybody else feels that way, or if I'm just a crazy hoe, because I don't know. I mean, the palette packaging is super stunning, 100%, like so freaking beautiful. Like, I mean, what else would you expect really from Jeffree? But like, yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. But then when he opened it, I just wasn't wowed. But like the swatches, when he did those, they look freaking stunning, right? I don't know if it's the color story or like it's just not what I was expecting or what. So he was like, it's gonna be like a moody, like, you know, like medieval luxe situation. I felt like, hey, don't get me wrong, I love lavender and lilacs. They're like some of my favorite colors ever. But that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting like really dark, awesome, like royal purples and like burgundies and black and maybe like a crazy gold, which he did have a gold, but like I didn't jive with it, man. I just didn't jive with it. Well, I think we're actually getting a pretty similar shade to the color of my shirt. Let's see. Like this is brighter, but I think tone-wise is very similar. Okay, cool. That's exciting. I am gonna do a bit of a cut crease, but let's see. I'm gonna go back in with the darker green from the Zulu palette and deepen up that outer edge just a bit. I don't know what cut color we should do, but something. So this, I'm just like, what am I saying? What am I saying? I'm just, Lord help me. I'm just concentrating the pigment on the outer corner of the eye, all the way up to the brow, of course, because that's how we freaking roll. And I'm not worried about the edges. I'm gonna clean those up. Don't panic, okay? Don't panic, no reason to panic. Okay, so other than Bloodlust, which is of course like the main topic of the day, I'm sure it's probably trending everywhere. Let's talk about some other awesome things. Well, I guess less than awesome, but awesome that it's even being talked about. So RawbeautyKristi just did a live stream, was it last night? No, it was the night before, I think. And she talked about her mental health issues. And it wasn't just like, it's okay to not be okay, which is important to say as well. And I'm definitely like an advocate for that statement because it is okay to not be okay. It happens, and that's totally fine. You don't want to stay that way, obviously. That's why there's therapy, coping skills, medication, etc., whatever you need. I'm looking for my concealer and I can't find it. I found it. As soon as I said I couldn't find it. But like, she was real like raw and like talked about really like things she's scared of. And like, I was so impressed by what she was talking about because nobody talks about the dumb shit that they're scared of in such a serious context that it's actually debilitating their lives. Not that she said it exactly like that, but I think it came across that way. And forgive me, RawbeautyKristi, if you're watching this, which I don't know why you ever would be, but if you did watch it, and I'm not saying what you intended, then I'm sorry, but this is what I took out of it. But like, it's so important to talk about these things because so many people, I'm just gonna say it, so many people are fucking crazy, right? I would say everyone is crazy in their own way. Like, the human brain is so flippin' complicated, like we don't even understand it. And like the medication for it, like it's just a crapshoot. It's like, well, this should work, but who knows? So good luck, and if you kill yourself because of it, my bad. Like, and I say that with such a flippant attitude, and I'm like not even kidding about it, I'm so serious. But like, it's important for people to talk about these things. Like, she's talking about like intrusive thoughts and like obsessive thinking about things that are scaring her, and like how it's really affecting her like day-to-day life, and as well as like just like in general her ability to do things, like, and how much stress and anxiety it brings and things like that. And I just thought that was such a good thing to put out there, especially with somebody with such a large platform. She's almost at 1 million subscribers. So if you guys don't watch RawbeautyKristi, like, go do it. What's wrong with you? To my 175 subscribers, please go watch RawbeautyKristi, and then you'll probably never watch me again because she's so freaking amazing. What am I trying to say? Anyway, it was just really refreshing to have such a raw beauty version of talking about mental health and issues like that. And it was very, like, even she was shocked that so many people were like, well, thank you for talking about this, I felt alone, da 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 da. It's like, you're not alone, okay? People are fucking nuts. Like, just even a couple days ago, someone was like, tell me about your phobias, because I feel like I'm totally insane. And I was like, girl, let me tell you. Because when my depression and anxiety got really bad in grad school, it presented itself not only as just classic depression and anxiety, but also like extreme phobias that really were nonsensical, but really did impact my way of living. Let me give you some examples that I think are, when I think about them, it's actually hilarious that I was even afraid of them at the time. But then again, when I think about them, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm not phobic anymore, but I still don't like these things. And while I don't necessarily actively avoid them, if I am put in a situation where these things are in existence, it can make me very uncomfortable, but I can deal with it, and I don't have a panic attack most of the time. I don't have an anxiety attack. It's not as debilitating as it once was. And when I say debilitating, I mean prevented me from having a enjoyable, healthy lifestyle. So let's not beat around the bush though. Like, this is the whole point of the conversation. It's like talking about the things that make you nuts, right? Like, you know you're crazy if you're crazy. Unless you're psychotic, okay, then you don't. But I'm not, I hope I'm not. Most people I would say are not psychotic. That is less common. But normal, middle of the road, crazy, I think is extremely common, and people are just afraid to think about it. Or like, oh God, that's too crazy, I can't say that out loud, so I won't. And then it's like, but you should, because everybody else is thinking the same thing, or something similar. I mean, not exactly the same thing. Not everybody has phobias that I had, and I don't have the same phobias that Raw Beauty was talking about, and like fear-inducing anxiety, etc., etc. So like, it's not the same, but it's so similar, it makes you feel less alone. So hold on, let me do this real quick. I'm really glad I started filming because I apparently had a lot to get off my chest that I didn't even know I had. Cool. This is just the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I didn't think the Pretty Vulgar one had any coverage. It did fine to prime my eyes, but I would have to use like a less good quality shadow to really tell you if it was okay or not. Yeah. So let's talk about Erin Level Crazy 6000. So this was about, how long ago was this now? 8 years ago. 8 years ago I moved to Texas, so it was before that. So probably 10 years ago. When my depression and anxiety really like came to a point where it was like, I have to get help. Like this is not, I can't just go for a walk anymore and feel better. Like this is something really serious and I'm upset about it. So I need to take care of it. So 2010 area, 2009 to 2010, I had just moved to Albany, New York for grad school. I had graduated from Hood College in Maryland. Whoop, whoop. Excuse me, in 2009. And that exact summer, I moved to New York to go to Albany Medical College for a PhD in biology. So I moved there and I didn't know anybody, and that, I think, taking away a lot of my support structure made a big difference. And as terrible as it was, I think was necessary for me to grow to be who I am now. I honestly, I guess, did not expect myself to go quite as nuts as I did. But it was really devastating to realize, like, I literally have no one to talk to in person. Like, and I called my mom like every day and talked to her for like hours, and I'm sure she loved it because she's crazy like that. But like, talking on the phone is different than talking in person, and I absolutely hate making phone calls. And I don't know, maybe that came from that period of time where like making phone calls was the only way I could actually have a human connection with somebody, and it was so horrific at that time. Maybe that like traumatized me against it, I don't know. But in any case, that is a beautiful color. Whew, that's my story. I need to blend it, obviously, and we're gonna do that right now. I'm trying to give you a little bit of background to where like all these phobias and all of my issues came to a head. So that's kind of where that was, and then school started, and then there was that stress, plus my relationship with my boyfriend at the time was not going 100% as well as it had been, even though we were closer together, which was very strange to me, and I was expecting things to be even better, but it wasn't. Anyway, a lot of things I expected to happen did not happen, and a lot of things I didn't expect to happen did happen. So yes, so the phobias, let's talk about them. Oh God. And I hope you laugh and think, that's so funny. Why would anybody feel this way and have no way to relate to me whatsoever? But I feel like more people will probably relate to me than don't. So let's see how this goes. So I would say the first and worst phobia that I had was something I was already afraid of from before, but became like 6 billion times worse as my mental health declined and really started affecting my day-to-day life. It was my fear of heights. So a lot of people dislike heights. A lot of people have a fear of heights. It makes them very uncomfortable. They avoid things like airplanes or going up to the skyscrapers and things like that. My fear of heights started like that, like a normal fear. Like, it's totally fine. If I had to do it, I would do it. I feel uncomfortable. I might have a little anxiety about it, but I would get through it and it would be fine. When I was in grad school, I shouldn't do my makeup while I'm talking to you. I'm gonna put on some face makeup, Stay Naked foundation from Urban Decay. So when I was in grad school, this normal fear that I would say is it's pretty normal fear. Lots of people are afraid of heights. Lots of people are afraid of all sorts of stuff. And that's not life-altering or debilitating. I was afraid to go above the 3rd floor in a building. Any building, didn't matter what it was, including parking garages, anything above the 3rd floor. I don't know why I was okay with going up to a 3rd floor. I think it's because my lab in grad school was on the 3rd floor, so there's like literally no way that I could not go there. If that makes sense. So I was like, well, I can't be afraid of that floor, but I can be afraid of every other floor above it. So like, if for instance there was a seminar, which there was multiple times on the 4th or 5th or 6th floor of this building that my school was in, it would give me a straight panic attack. Like, I would be hyperventilating, I would be super anxious. When I had really bad anxiety. It would present as me feeling like I had bugs all over me crawling, even though I didn't see them because I'm not psychotic. But that's what I imagined it would feel like if you had bugs crawling all over you. Super terrible. Hard to sit still, hard to focus, hard to think about anything other than, I gotta get out of here, I can't breathe, and I'm freaking out, and this is terrible, and I'm gonna die. And like, yeah, a whole tunnel of craziness, right? So that really did affect me for a really long time. And that's actually the first phobia I was able to overcome, which I kind of feel like I should put that in a different video as well, like how to overcome and how to work on coping skills and things like that. So if y'all want to hear about how I overcame my phobia of heights, not saying I'm not still afraid of them, but my phobia of them, let me know in the comments below and I'll totally do a video about that. So that was probably the first one that kind of ramped up into a phobia from a fear. Then I guess we'll go, the next one I would say is probably like splinters. So when I was a kid, if I ever got a splinter, or I guess some people call them slivers, if I ever got a sliver or a splinter, my dad would force me to sit down and let him pick it out with like a freaking pin, like a little needle, like a sewing pin. It was absolutely excruciating and terrifying. And so I guess I internalized that, because as I grew up, I got more and more and more afraid of splinters, because it was such a terrible experience having them picked out by your father with a tiny needle, even though it hurt, and other people didn't have to have that happen. That I literally had a phobia of touching unpainted wood, like raw wood. And so, like, if somebody would hand me something, if it was like a 2x4 that you got at Home Depot or something like that, they handed it to me, I would not touch it. I would back away, I would flip out, I'd have an anxiety attack, like, I was like, I'm not going by that wood. like if there was a wooden gate that I needed to touch to open it, like I would use my clothed elbow to touch, like I was crazy. Like I'm saying, like I think more people are crazy than they realize. But that was another one, and that one I think sort of morphed into my fear of broken glass, which is still a fear and is one of the only ones that I still really F's with me, okay? Like, I'm not as phobic if I'm in a room with broken glass on the floor. Like, if somebody drops a glass and it breaks, it will make me extremely uncomfortable. I might have a mild anxiety attack, but I don't have to leave. I will not immediately imagine that the glass is going to fly up into my throat, cut through my esophagus, and murder me. Because that's literally what I would imagine every single time if I saw even just one shard of broken glass on the ground. I lived in a city, so obviously lots of broken glass. So those were heights, splinters, broken glass. Like, even thinking about them still, it kind of makes me nervous, and I don't like it. So, like, I would not say I'm like 100% fine, but I am in recovery. It's not a phobia anymore. It's definitely not to that level. But I still don't like them. Let me just put that out there. One thing that I do not do anymore, which I'm very glad about, and I feel like this was maybe one of the last phobias that I acquired, and it kind of goes down the same line of like swallowing something and having it kill you. So I was afraid of choking on my food, because I lived, like I said, I was by myself. I lived by myself. I didn't know anybody. And so I conflagrated everything in my brain to make it worse than it was. Obviously, that's why it's a phobia. And so I got to the point where I was chewing my food like 100 times before I would even swallow it. And I would like have my phone ready to call 911, because I was afraid to death I was gonna choke on my food, either because there was a bone in it, or a piece of glass, or a piece of metal, which has happened to me, which then validated my phobia, which made it probably worse. Like, then be like, that would never happen to anybody, but actually it has happened to me, but I wasn't as phobic about it at that point, so I was able to like freaked me out, but it wasn't debilitating. Like I survived it. Yeah, I was like chewing my food like 100 times before I would swallow it, like just one bite, and I would take teeny bites and I would chew it like every corner of my mouth to make sure that there was nothing sharp or weird in it. It was rough. The moral of the story is, I'm crazy. No, I'm like, where did this all come from? Talking about mental health and like normalizing it is super important. In fact, I think it's one of the most important things that anyone could possibly do. Like, you don't need to explain to people you have diabetes and you have to take insulin. If you have diabetes, everybody knows that you take insulin, right? If you have a broken leg, it's gonna be splinted and probably in a cast. That's not weird. But if you have a broken brain, it is very weird and inappropriate, apparently, according to society, for you to do anything about it. And that to me is the dumbest shit I've ever heard of in my life. That doesn't make any sense. I'm very passionate about this. If you couldn't tell, I look fucking stunning, and I only have foundation powder and my eyes half done. And this video is super long. Oh my god. I kind of want to cut it into 2 parts. And there's so many things I want to talk about. Like, now it's all like up in my brain and I'm like, bleh, word vomit. Let's just do it. Okay. Excuse me. While we do talk about these things more, let's put on some bronzer. Okay. Let's contour with the Sands of Time from Revolution Pro. As much as thinking about that time of my life is difficult for me, it's actually very empowering. Because I'm like, yo bitch, you survived the worst period of your life. And if anything comes that's worse than that, Jesus Christ, but help, somebody will help me get through it if I can't help myself. That's for sure. Because that's why I have a strong support system. I'm like, what is that word called? A strong support system. Who I actively talk about my mental health with, i.e. my wife, my sister, my mom, my friends. Like, I keep them in the loop. Anyway, the point of that is having a strong support system is extremely important when you have mental health challenges, which most people do, even if you won't admit it. Because sometimes it's nice to have an outside perspective. Sometimes it's nice that to have someone acknowledge your self-reflection or tell you like, no, I haven't noticed that about you. And it's like, well, maybe I'm not doing it. Or maybe I am. But it's just nice to have validation, and that's what a support system should do. A, validate your feelings, and B, help you deal with them, right? Like, overall, the point of this video in specific is, let me tell you my craziness in my brain. And those are just my phobias. Those are not my intrusive thoughts. Those are not crazy things that I do or crazy things that I feel. Those are just my phobias that I've had in the past. Okay, so don't think like, oh, you can deal with that, that's fine. It's like, that's not it, girlfriend. There is more. And maybe we'll get into that in another video, because I cannot have this video be forever long. That's why this video is important. That's why RawbeautyKristi's live stream is important. That's why it's important when any person that has any sort of following whatsoever, be it one person that you're talking to is your friend in real life, be it a social media influencer, be it someone like me who talks to a camera but like 5 people watch it, whoever you are, if you know a human, you need to help destigmatize mental health. Because it's mind-boggling. The fact that this is a situation that we're still having in 2020, which everybody's saying, 2020, like, why are we feeling this way about this? Because humans have a hard time with change. But it's not a change. It's a problem that people have been having for years and years, hundreds, since the beginning of humanity, okay? Even animals get anxiety. Like, it's not weird, okay? It feels weird because nobody talks about it. And it is weird because you know, like, the things that you're thinking and feeling, you feel like they are not how you should be thinking or feeling, because that's not healthy, right? And that's okay to feel that way, but it's not weird. It's not like statistically strange, if that makes sense, to have a mental illness. It's statistically extremely normal. So why is it societally extremely unaccepted? It drives me crazy. Speaking about crazy, it makes me crazy not being allowed to be crazy. Period. The point of this video is we need to destigmatize mental health, because it's probably the most ridiculously antiquated theory that mental health is not real and you just get over it and it's all in your head. Guess what? It is in your head. It's your brain, okay? Your brain lives in your head literally. Your brain is an organ and it's fucking complicated. And I'm gonna split this video into 2 pieces because I'm gonna just go forever on a terrible rant. It's complicated. Brains are fucking complicated, you know? Someone with a PhD versus someone with a GED versus somebody with no high school education. None of them can correctly explain the human brain because it's inexplicable. It makes no sense. It's extremely complicated. If something is that complicated, it's not unlikely that something is going wrong. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna end this video here so I can talk about a different topic in my next video. So my next video, I will be finishing this face makeup and the look overall. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant about the stigma of mental health and why it shouldn't be a stigma at all, and how we can all help just by talking about it, because normalizing something removes the stigma around it. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!